This show is not intended for the politically correct or the close-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at LateNightInTheMidlands.com or OpenEyesNetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello, and welcome to Open Eyes. I am coming to you from a very, very, very cold Indiana. My goodness, this is frigid here. Normally we have highs on the average here during this time of the year in the upper 30s. And at the moment, and lows, somewhere around maybe 20 or so. We're sitting right now at -5, and we're looking at like -14 tomorrow and all kinds of good stuff. Man, it is so cold. I am so tired of living in this cold climate. I'm ready to move south. I'm telling you. If anybody wants to take me down in Texas, that'd be a really good thing. Anyways, today is Monday, February 16th, and I hope you guys had a good weekend. My weekend was pretty good. Like I said, other than being pretty frigid overall, it went pretty well. Today I'm going to talk to you about the media and how the media is really adept at manipulating people. And I hope that you guys will pick up some information that maybe you guys have never heard before, and maybe some ways to see how they're manipulating you. If you can see it, you can try to avoid it, right? That's kind of my idea with it all. So I'm going to give you some information about how the media manipulates, what it does, different tactics that it uses. It's a little bit different than the propaganda episode that I brought you a while back. Although I will talk a little bit about that, but not as much as I did there. I might go into that subject again at another point in the future. But anyway, suffice it to say that the media is very adept at manipulating, and we see it all the time, everywhere. And it really does. It gets very frustrating, to say the least. So before we get into that topic, I have some news for you that I want to bring you. These are some things that I thought were, pretty interesting and relevant, to say the least. The first one, it has to do with the attacks that have been going on lately in Europe as far as the Jews are concerned. And I don't know if there's like necessarily something going on that they're being targeted directly or anything like that. Who knows? It's really hard to tell. Again, the media manipulates a lot, and some of it is stemming from the whole Paris false flag crap that went on and so on and so forth. But anyways, so because of all of this, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday urged European Jews to move to Israel after a Jewish man was killed in an attack outside of Copenhagen's main synagogue. A quote from Benjamin: "Israel is your home. We are preparing and calling for the absorption of mass immigration from Europe." This is repeating a similar call that he made after attacks by people in Paris last month, because 4 Jews were among the dead there. Now, the thing that comes to my mind the most with this is that it's sort of, well, again, a manipulation tactic that's going on. What they're trying to do here is they're not necessarily directly saying that this person who was killed was directly killed because he was a Jew, or if there was something else that was going on with the situation. In other words, it's like someone going out to a biker bar, getting drunk, walking outside, and killing somebody that was walking down the street. Just because the person was killed there and in front of the biker bar doesn't mean that the person was a biker themselves. You see, there's no information that's coming out or coming forth as to whether or not this was actually a target because he was a Jew, at least not that I have seen yet. So the question is, do we have a new problem that's cropping up because of, people targeting Jews or whatever? Or is this just basically a crazy guy and a random attack happening? You see, it seems to me that it's premature for something like a call to action, that a mass immigration mass exodus basically from Europe into Israel by all the Jews that are there just because of a couple of random attacks. It doesn't seem the best course of action to me, but I'm not Jewish, so I don't know, Anyways, I ran across that and I thought it was at least passing strange, especially since he's coming here to America next month to stand in front of the Congress and give a speech to Congress. Yeah, you then have this happening just 2 weeks before that period of time ends up occurring. So I don't know. It seems kind of interesting, especially when you consider the fact that at least half of the members of Congress have dual citizenship in America and Israel. So yeah, things come to mind. So there's a new type of jewelry that's being developed. It's by an industrial designer and graduate student from Hadassah College in Jerusalem. Another Israeli story, actually. Didn't realize that. Has designed jewelry that theoretically extracts energy from the wearer's own body. The jewelry is embedded into the person's veins and uses their blood to turn a small wheel inside of the device. This would then generate power, sort of like shoot, I just can't remember the word. The water mill. Sort of like that, where the water is moving the wheel and therefore generating hydropower, that type of thing. Same idea with this, only instead of it being water moving, it's actually blood from one of your veins that's moving this thing around. So the reason why it's being developed, it's claimed, is to get people to talk about how far we will go in order to feed our addictions in the world of declining resources. So the person is developing it as a means, basically, to spark conversations, I guess you could say, about whether or not people would use such a device or anything along those lines if things got bad enough that power generation was difficult to do. So would we power our devices with our own bodies? And I will say that as far as I'm concerned, no, I never would do anything along those lines, but I could see quite a few people that would. There are a lot of people that are out there that are addicted to their iPhones and addicted to their iPads and all that kind of stuff. And I could see them doing something like this as a means to power their devices if such a need were to arise. But that kind of technology, the fact that the people are developing it, you can see where this kind of thing is leading us, right? The whole man and machine thing, it really is getting that much closer. And speaking of which, this actually brings me to my next story. The techno-wizards at the government's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, want upper limb amputees to feel the sensation of touch again. The hand proprioception and touch interfaces, or haptics, the latest program in DARPA's ongoing bid to improve prosthetic technologies for injured service members, is working to equip future prosthetics with a sense of touch. This isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea unlikely to come to fruition. DARPA is already working with several universities and laboratories to bring touch capabilities to prosthetics within the next 4 years, and says that it plans to initiate take-home trials of complete FDA-approved haptics prosthetic systems within 4 years. So this is on the surface coming forward as a medical technology, a medical benefit to this type of thing that occurs. And I'm all for that kind of thing. Don't get me wrong here. I'm all for that kind of thing happening. However, this also goes hand in hand with the transhumanism agenda that is on the mind of a lot of the elite players that are out there, that they want to upload their consciousnesses into machines, into computer systems, into robots. The fact that a prosthetic can be developed with the sense of touch, giving the sense of touch to the person who's wearing it, brings us that much closer to actually developing a system where the whole system has that sense of touch. And if a consciousness is then put into this type of machine, well, you can see where it would go, that no longer would be a need for a human body. They could still have the sense of touch at the very least at that point, right? So this is, it's one of those things that again is a manipulation technique. They're developing it on the idea that this has a medical benefit. So on the surface, they say, oh yes, well, this is a good thing. It's going to benefit people, and they're going to be, advanced because of this. They look at what we can do for people's health and so on and so forth. But at the same time, there's that sub-agenda to it all, you see. There's that subsection to it all. It's just like with any type of technology that's out there. Computer systems are very beneficial for mankind. However, on the same side of the issue there, computers also can be very dangerous for mankind because of the different facts that, the fact that everything right now is connected to computer systems. Everything is done through computer systems. So if something were to happen to the computers, boom, we're all toast, you see. So it's a little bit questionable to me, especially when it involves DARPA, because DARPA never really has the benefits of the public in mind with anything that they do. So on the surface, they'll say one thing, but on the other side of the coin, there's definitely something else that's there. Now this one annoyed me to no end. I have a big issue with this type of thing going on. Scottish researchers have found a correlation between suicide rates and natural lithium levels in the water supply, similar to studies in Japan and Austria. Of course, two pieces of information that correlate do not imply that one causes the other, and studies will need to take place to decide whether or not the lack of lithium really can lead to depression and suicide. The research that's going on with it is the plan to add lithium into water supplies to treat depression and institute behavioral control. Adding chemicals to public water supply is not uncommon. Water gets dirty, parasites, bacteria, and other things can survive, and so much of the municipal water supply is treated with chlorine as a cleaning agent. Some supplies are treated with fluoride to help mineralize teeth, but this would be something else entirely and is needing to have more research done. Well, gee, you think so? I mean, at first, on the first scale with this article, fluoride has no health benefits. Okay, we know this. I've brought that information out to you before. I'm sure that you've heard it in other places as well. Fluoride is a neurotoxin. Okay, it does not do anything health-wise for your teeth. It replaces the enamel in the teeth, essentially, so that then if you're not intaking more fluoride as you chelate the stuff out of your system, well, it starts to leach away and you get broken teeth. Anyways, so the problem that I have with this is the fact that I'm not depressed. I'm not suffering depression. I'm not suicidal. So why should I be subjected to a psychoactive drug based upon the fact that some people out there do have that issue? I mean, this is something very dangerous, guys. This is very dangerous. We didn't get a chance to vote on fluoride, and at this point in time, we know that it's probably going to be too late to do anything to change things because it's already in the water supply so much. It's going to be very difficult to clean it out. It's going to take a very long time for it to be worked out of the water supply that's currently in place. However, we can do something to put a stop to this being implemented. At least I hope so. Can't we? I mean, start outcrying about something like this. This is a bad, bad thing, to say the least. I've known people that have been on lithium, and it's not a good thing. Okay, it's not for everybody. So yeah, that one really annoyed me. Like I said, I mean, we already have so many issues with things being in our water supply. Our water supply is already so messed up. It's already containing different pharmaceutical chemicals in it because of people peeing and pooping into the water supply and it getting into the rest of the water supply, diluting out. Yes, of course, but it's still there. It's still there. It's a very slippery slope. When they start talking about messing with the water supply again, man, I stand up and pay attention. I really do. Okay, so this next story, it's actually 2 in 1. They're both kind of relating together, but I'll get into the first one first. The White House has proposed shifting money between 2 Social Security accounts in order to avert deep cuts in disability payments. Specifically, reallocating a small portion of the Social Security payroll tax from its old age account to disability for 5 years, as has been done numerous times in the past. The GOP, however, is trying to block this from happening. They plan on basically cutting the disability payments, to those who are on SSI, as the Social Security Supplemental Income, basically. So the AARP and other elderly advocacy groups support the strategy, which would extend by 17 years the life of the disability reserve, currently projected to be exhausted by the end of 2016, according to Acting Commissioner of the Social Security Administration, Carolyn Colvin. And it would save lives, she added. I don't want to be dramatic, but I've worked with this population my whole career, she said at a budget committee hearing held on Wednesday. Cutting already paltry disability benefits, she declared, would give them a death sentence. Since most disability recipients receive barely $1,200 a month, a cut of nearly 20% as proposed by the GOP could mean the difference between affording food, medicine, clothing, or paying bills. It is an unspeakable option and one that we are determined to prevent. That was from Senator Bernie Sanders. What's more, the move is a cynical attempt to divide the senior population from the disability community, charged the report. So I will be honest, I will be forthcoming with things here. This one definitely impacts me because I'm on disability due to my blindness. And the fact that they are proposing to cut payments by 20% is dumbfounding to me, especially taking into account the fact that so many people that are on disability out there are basically using this as their only source of income. This is it, and this is all. And to cut that by 20%, I mean, what do we need to cut it for 20% or, by 20% for? There are many other things that are out there that could be cut, like maybe the defense spending that we do that's 5 times larger, or that's larger than the next 5 countries downwards. I mean, we spend a ridiculous amount of money on defense, but they want to cut Social Security? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense. Relating to this story, and I'll get more into that here in a moment, but relating to this story, they're also proposing cutting food stamps. House Republicans are reportedly renewing efforts to cut the federal food stamp program, increasing restrictions on benefits and who may qualify for them. House Agriculture Committee Chairman Mike Conaway from Texas will introduce the effort at a committee's February 25th meeting, the first of several hearings scheduled this year to debate the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP program, which administrates food stamps. Conaway told the Wall Street Journal on Thursday that implementing changes may take months, but reports suggest that Republicans will aim to slash funding for the program and tighten eligibility requirements. Currently, a family of 4 making less than $2,500 a month may qualify for the SNAP program. However, food stamp rules are already being tightened across the country. Now, here's my take on both of these stories. And like I said, they're kind of both put together in my mind because, well, it's Republicans that are doing it to both. And they're both sort of being pushed forward at the exact same time here. Number one, it's a game that they're playing. They're trying to do a power play here. And I know this. Believe me, I know this. I've seen politicians do this many times over my lifetime, and I'm sure you have as well. The problem is that they always try to cut the social programs. They always try to cut the programs that people use as a means to try to survive. Instead of cutting programs or instead of cutting funding from places that the spending does not really need to be done. I mean, I'll give a great example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I did an episode about insane spending that the government does, and like the fact that they have spent $800,000 to implement a genital washing campaign on men in South Africa. Now, how much of that $800,000 could have been contributed to the Social Security program or to the food stamp program? You see, how much of the $2.6 million that the government has spent of our money on teaching Chinese prostitutes how to drink more responsibly could have gone into these programs? How much of the $479 million that the government just through at Lockheed Martin to build 4 more planes that don't fly, can't turn, don't shoot, and frankly, the Pentagon did not want? How much of that $479 million could have gone to either one of these programs and propped it up that much further? How much of the fact that the immigrant population, the illegal immigrant population, is now being said to be qualified to get tax refunds on money that they never paid taxes on in the time that they've been illegal in this country? How much of that money could be used on disability and on food stamps? Why do you always have to mess with the poor? Why do you always have to mess with the people who are the most desperate in need? You bastards, I'm telling you, this is just absolutely sick. It is disgusting. And people thought that things would change by putting a different party into the Congress. People actually thought that things would actually change. Bullcrap. It never changes. It's always the same. No matter who it is that's in there, they're all on the same side. It's us in the population, us great unwashed masses who fall for the different heads of the same coin. This just is abject stupidity. And I'm sick of it. Why aren't people crying out about this? Why aren't people screaming and hollering in the streets about this? They'll sure do it for anything else, right? But why not this? Where's the Million Man March for this kind of stuff? Oh, I'm sorry, that kind of stuff won't happen because it's not a popular agenda. It's not something that is going to get people hotly debating and being able to push all the hot buttons. Why? Because they're poor. Because the people that are impacted by this the most are the poor. They don't matter. They can die. It doesn't matter. There's enough of them out there to replace the next ones that come along. It's frustrating. Well, guys, I'm going to take a break here. When we come back, I am going to talk about the way that the media manipulates the population. And this is not even just necessarily here in the United States, but worldwide, this type of stuff goes on. And I'll get into all of that as I go through this episode tonight. So guys, stick around with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. The Late Night in the Midlands radio network is deeply devoted to you, the listener. We feel it is necessary to bring you all of the information that you can use in your life. Each and every day you will find something to listen to here. And whether you come away from the shows informed, inspired, or entertained, it is our passion. We don't bow to corporations, and we don't have handlers to tell us what not to talk about. We bring you everything. Late Night in the Midlands, however, is fully listener-supported. We need your help to stay on the air and to make sure that we get the bills paid. We need your help to keep the truth alive. If you feel that you have gotten anything out of Late Night in the Midlands, we would appreciate your support. You can become a subscriber and help us out on a monthly basis, or if you'd like, a one-time donation is fully appreciated as well. Every year, the average household in America spends over $3,000 on entertainment alone. If you could help us with just a tiny fraction of that amount, you would make all of the difference. Go to latenightinthemidlands.com and click on the subscribe button. Thank you, and as always, keep yourself informed.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. You've heard Dr. Leonard Horowitz and experts urge you to avoid deadly vaccinations and illegal operators selling stolen OxySilver and OxySilver copycats. You've heard experts tell you about suppression in alternative medicine and confusing propaganda in healthcare and the truth movement. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeolove, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from TheCureShop.com. Including OxySilver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol. Electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. OxySilver is covalently bonded to water. Unlike any other silver product using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently body silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. OxySilver works 3 ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risk. OxySilver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from TheCureShop.com. Buy OxySilver, GI Flora Pro, Green Harvest, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll-free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
Ben Franklin said, if you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today. Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira. Man, that song always gets me so fired up. I love that song. It's for those of you who don't know, that's Wrath of the Machines by Boris Miljovic. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It's a really hard one to pronounce. Anyways, yeah, that song always gets me going. I love stuff like that. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you guys have music that you want to have me use in my show, on my bumpers, or in my advertisements, or anything along those lines, send it my way. I'm more than happy to listen to it, and I'm more than happy to use it. You can send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com, and make sure that in the email with the file, make sure it's MP3, and make sure that you put in there written permission for me to be able to use it on the show. I'll gladly do it. I'm always looking for good music like that people make. So I want to talk about the different things that are going on in the media. And when I'm speaking about the media manipulation, I want to be sure to clarify that this means all types of media: the newspapers, magazines, television, radio, internet, everything, social media, all of it. It's all combined together under the media umbrella. And it's not just mainstream media that is at fault with all of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about. It is the alternative media as well. I try real hard not to do it with my show, but I tend to be a lot more independent because I don't have any sponsors or anything like that that are pushing me to follow an agenda or another. I don't have anyone breathing down my neck telling me, hey, you can't talk about this, or hey, if you're going to talk about this, then you also need to talk about this. I don't have any of that going on, so I'm just giving you my honest feedback on the things that I see. I don't have any particular agendas myself that I want you to follow, unless you consider opening up your eyes and taking a look around, researching for yourself. Those would be probably my biggest agendas, is just getting people to wake up and do their own research instead of following the paths that everyone else wants them to follow. I also have the agenda of wanting to spread a little bit more love in the world. That's sort of my big points that I try to make, is just to, I don't know, pay attention to what's going on, I guess you could say, and hopefully come forward with some better ways of doing things. So over this past week, there has been a bit of news that's come forward about the media specifically, and exposing some of the stuff that goes on with it. I'm sure you've heard about the one portion of things, which is Brian Williams, who is the lead anchor on NBC Nightly News and all of that he got busted basically for telling a lie. And now he is suspended for, I believe it was 6 months is the last time that I saw. And everybody's freaking out about it. Everybody's, oh, I can't believe he lied to us. I can't believe he lied to us. Well, if you fell for the stories that they put out, do a lot more research. I mean, the guy... Media is all about trying to fulfill an agenda. They're all about trying to push forward an idea or another so that they can change the way that people act, so that they can change the way that people do things. And almost always, not 100%, but a vast majority of the time, it's about buying a product or selling something. They sell you on an idea, or they'll sell you on a product, and this is what they have as their end goal with it all. So the thing happened with Brian Williams, and so now, of course, everybody's looking into everything that he's said over the years, and, oh, was this a lie? Was this a lie? Was this a lie? the fact is that he lied to get himself popular with people, to get people behind him. I wonder who he's ticked off over the past couple of months or whatever that this type of thing is now getting revealed, because normally when this type of thing happens, and it happens a lot actually, the where somebody, gets caught in a lie or caught doing something, most of the time, by and large, it's blown off by the media. They don't really cover it. They don't really do anything other than maybe a little blurb on page 11 of the New York Times or something. They don't really say much of anything, so it gets blown over a lot. But then when you have issues like this, a lot of times it is because they have done something that has kind of bucked the system a little bit, or they've made somebody mad in the wrong place, and so therefore this stuff gets kind of leaked out and revealed. The other thing, though, that's been going on is that there were 3 other journalists in the past week that have had a lot of issues going on as well. And I wanted to bring them to your attention because this is sort of how the manipulation gets going, I guess you could say. Ned Colt of NBC dropped dead of a stroke. He was supposedly kidnapped during the Iraq War for several days and then freed. Bob Simon of CBS died in a car crash on the same day. He was supposedly kidnapped and held captive for 40 days in an Iraqi jail. David Carr of the New York Times, after interviewing Edward Snowden, died within 24 hours of interviewing Edward Snowden. Within hours of interviewing Edward Snowden, he died. And all of this happened within 24 hours worth of time. Okay, this is very, very weird, right? On the same day as well, Bob Hager of the NBC, he was an aviation expert on the NBC, had a head-on crash. He didn't die, but it was a major accident, and he was critically injured with it. So you see these type of things going on, and then of course adding into that, Brian Williams getting tossed off the air for lying about the Iraq War. David Carr was also standing up against Brian Williams with the Iraq War claims as well. The question that comes to my mind immediately upon seeing something like this occurring is, did these guys know something offhand, you could say, about what happened maybe during the Iraq War? I mean, Brian Williams himself was at least supposedly a correspondent during the Iraq War. All of these things are regarding the Iraq War, and that's where they got their main popularity from, you see, other than David Carr, who was popular for other reasons. But the fact that he just had gotten done interviewing Edward Snowden and then dropped dead. See, these are questions, right? This is something that should be looked at, because it's just like with the NASA scientists that 27 of them have died over or not maybe necessarily NASA scientists, but astronomers, dozens of them dying worldwide within a very short span of time. These are questions that need to be answered. But of course, the media is not touching on the questions. They're just reporting that, okay, well, these guys are dead and that sort of thing. But they're very effective at manipulating people's minds and putting forward these different agendas. It's really easy to do. I mean, you have these guys, for instance, who we'll take Brian Williams as the example, because a lot of people are familiar with the story behind the story with it all right now. This guy claimed that he was shot down in a helicopter, but wasn't. But because of that, suddenly people get behind him. You know, he's a hero. This was a heroic action that he went through. So we can get behind this guy. We can stand behind this guy because he's one of us. He's been through it. He's amazing. Let's support this guy. But the whole thing was fabricated. It was all a lie. So people got manipulated into thinking something of him that he wasn't. A lot of the way that they do this type of stuff is through different forms of propaganda. Now, there are many different forms of propaganda. And again, I went through some of them on that previous show of mine, and I really would recommend you going back in my archives and taking a listen to it. But they have wonderful little buzzwords that are attached to them, like glitter propaganda, which is, it's a type of propaganda that they put forward with, this product is amazing. This is a wonderful, amazing thing. Sort of like how they did with Brian Williams. This is a wonderful, amazing anchor or journalist. We have to get behind this guy. You see, they use plain folks propaganda. They use testimonial types. You know, the list goes on. Public opinion is very important to them. It really is everything for them. They have spent a huge amount of money putting together the public relations firms. There's at least 7,000 different public relations firms just here in the United States alone. And that's a pretty staggering number if you think about it, because they're all making a lot of money trying to manipulate people's opinions about things. That's what public relations is all about. It's all about the spin factor. Something that most people don't realize, and I would go so far as to say probably the vast majority of people don't realize, is that when you have a thought or you do an action, this thought or action has been, filtered through a vast system of things inside of you. They are done and seen through the lenses of everything that you have gone through in your life and everything that you have been exposed to in your life. You might think that you have a free will over everything that you do, but in reality, you really don't. Not really. It's a free will that's limited and filtered through the programming that you've received since the moment that you arrived here on the planet. The brain works really effectively at being programmed. It's very easily programmed because we're kind of built that way. We're built with so many ingrained programs into us that adding new ones in is very easy to do. It really is not that difficult. You might hear people talking about brainwashing, and when people mention that word, they sort of look at it as being a total personality change and that sort of thing. And while that does occur, and it is a difficult process to do, brainwashing someone that completely is not maybe the easiest thing to do, but it does happen. It's done. Okay. Look at your average cult leader that's out there, or look at your average hyper religious church or mosque or anything along those lines out there, and you'll see that this type of programming or brainwashing is really easy to do when you know the tricks and techniques to do it. But when you think about brainwashing, most people think that that's a total personality thing, but it's not. It's more of a matter of little subtle things happening over time. So somebody doesn't just get programmed by a cult leader, for example, taking that further. Somebody doesn't get programmed by them overnight. It takes a period of time and slowly done so that the person acts like the frog in the boiling water idea. You change them slowly over time so that they don't notice that the changes are occurring and therefore are not likely to lash out or fight against it. That's how the most effective brainwashing techniques are done. This is exactly how the media manipulates and brainwashes people into doing whatever it is that they want them to do. Whatever agenda of the week is being put forward. And it really can change that quickly as well. I wanted to give you a little bit of information from this article that I ran across. And this kind of goes into how it's done like on a governmental basis. When it comes to propaganda, a lot of people think, oh, well, this is just the governments that do it. And no, it's not. I'll get into that here in a few minutes. But when it comes to government propaganda, two USA Today journalists were ensnared in a propaganda campaign after reporting about millions of dollars in back taxes owed by the Pentagon's top propaganda contractor in Afghanistan. Eventually, one of the co-owners of the firm confessed to creating phony websites and Twitter accounts to smear the journalists anonymously. The Washington Post exposed a counter-propaganda program by the Pentagon that recommended posting comments on a U.S. website run by a Somali expatriate. A quote from the Washington Post here. Today, the military is more focused on manipulating news and commentary on the internet, especially social media, by posting material and images without necessarily claiming ownership. So what they do, as an example with this methodology that's there, is you see pictures on Facebook. Just tossing this out as a for instance, because I see this a lot. You'll see pictures on Facebook that people are passing around, and it'll have hundreds of thousands of shares. And it'll say something like, I support our troops. Do you hit like if you agree? Another one would be not long ago when the whole torture report stuff was coming out. You'd see on Facebook people passing around images of people falling from the windows during the 9/11 incident, and would post things up above them. You know, in the picture, they'd put text over the picture saying, "This is why we torture." That kind of thing is a propaganda technique that is actually used by the government themselves. You don't realize it because you see that it's your friend that's sharing it, or you see that it's someone else that's sharing it, as opposed to it coming directly from the desk of Barack Obama and from the White House. Here, I made this picture for you guys in Photoshop. Here you go. Maybe he did that. Maybe he did do it during his time period that he was taking his own selfies and looking into the mirror and all that. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, look at BuzzFeed. They got Obama to come onto one of their videos and showing how he acts just like everybody else does during the day. Again, it's a propaganda piece. But anyways, so that's kind of how it's done, though. They put the things out without claiming ownership of them. They just have someone do it, and then this kind of thing gets passed around on social media, so that people's mindsets get changed in subtle ways. When you see a picture like the person falling from the window during 9/11 and the words up above it, "This is why we torture," that puts into you another notch in the program that they are trying to put forward. You're going to accept torture of a person because of this event happening. You see, because this happened, torture is okay. Torture is not okay under any circumstances, and anyone with any kind of a conscience would know and understand this. I don't care what the circumstances are. Torture is never something to do. And it's been shown to be ineffective anyways, because people will lie and tell you something just to get away from the torture. It's an ineffective technique. The fact that they are calling out for people to be put in pain, act like they're drowning, so on and so forth, this is a way of changing your conscience in a subtle way. It's one more little gear click. You know, like a watch that has the gears turning in it. It's just one more little click as the next one comes along. That's how this works. It's a subtle technique that's done. They don't sit there. They don't make you sit in a chair holding your eyes open with toothpicks and showing you scary images and loud music. Wait a minute. Maybe they do. It's exactly how they do it, isn't it? It is. Because instead of us being strapped down into a chair and being forced into watching the images, we sit ourselves in the chair, sit down in front of the television, and we'll sit there and stare at it as the images come in and as the sounds come in, and sitting there staring at it for hours on end. I know people that are out there that will stay awake watching TV past the point of being absolutely exhausted. And, oh, well, I just have to finish this show. Oh, well, I just want to finish watching the news. And then I'm going to go to bed. Because you're that tired, you're already in a state of mind where you're easily manipulated. But then you toss in the images and the sounds that they use. And those things are designed to put you into a hypnagogic state, to put you into a programmed state of mind, an open state of mind, so that anything that you see and hear is picked up by the brain and it's stored, and you're then impacted by it. By hypnagogic state, I mean the state of mind that's sort of between wakefulness and total sleep. In this state of mind, this is where the hypnotist on the stage will be able to tell you that you're going to be a chicken and you're going to act like a chicken. It's that same kind of state. Instead of it being someone that's hypnotizing you, though, it's done through other means. It's done through other methods. It's done through the fluoride that's in the water and maybe perhaps the lithium that's coming soon. It's done through the frequencies that are going on all the time around us these days. We're surrounded by frequencies. We're surrounded by this energy that's in the air. And people may try to claim that, oh, well, that doesn't have an effect. That doesn't have an impact. That's a lie. It does. We're all energy. We're all made up of it. So we're influenced by these frequencies, by these energies. They do have an impact on us, even if it's a subtle one. It still has an impact, and it still contributes to the whole, you see. But we get into that state of mind, and we're then easily programmed and manipulated into doing whatever it is that we're being told to do. So I'll give a great example. Let's say, for instance, you are watching TV and a commercial comes on for Twinkies. I know there's not really any Twinkies commercials on TV anymore. I'm just giving this as an example. So you see a commercial that comes on that's advertising Twinkies. So the Twinkies look golden delicious and cream filled and blah, blah, blah. And you're in this state of mind where you are in that hypnagogic state. And suddenly you're programmed with the idea that Twinkies are good, Twinkies are yummy, and therefore you need Twinkies. Now, it may not impact you immediately because it takes time to filter. But what will end up happening is a day, maybe 2 days later, suddenly you'll be like, you know what? I really feel like having a Twinkie right now. I don't know why. I just feel like having a Twinkie. That's how it's done. And of course, they've gotten very effective at doing this kind of thing. Now, another way that they'll do things is by changing the social bias of things. So you'll see, you go to a forum on the internet, or you'll go to, let's say, a news article that is talking about something, and you'll see people commenting on the article, or they'll comment on the forums or whatever. A lot of times what ends up happening is those are actual, what's called sock puppets. Somebody will be hired basically to create multiple social accounts that are very in-depth accounts a lot of times. And they will create 20 or 30 or 40 of these things. And they will use software, for instance, that will automatically post things for you. I know this. I'm just going to give this as an example. On Twitter, there's a program that you can use called Social Oomph that will post tweets for you at pre-designated times. You can tell it exactly what time you want it to go out. Type in exactly what it is that you want to say. And you can program into it hundreds of different tweets that you want to have it say over time. So you can have it do random quotes or come out with different pages on your website and that sort of thing. Well, the same idea applies to these social forums as well, that these types of programs are out there that will allow these people that are controlling the sock puppets to post random or seemingly random, information on a comment on a section of an article or on a forum or something like that. They will put these out there and they'll say, okay, we're going to have this group of 40 accounts post in these statements, and boom, it's done. They just hit the button and boom, it's done. And they'll have that ready, and they'll be just kind of they might not be specifically about the article in question. They won't quote things from the article in question, for instance, but it will be topical. So if you go to an article that's talking about, let's say, fluoride being bad for you, then you'll see 40 or 50 of these accounts that will say, oh, this article is crap. This article is no good. Don't believe what this thing says. Don't believe this. This is a lie. That sort of thing, right? Just very vague but negative statements about said article. So what they'll do then is they will go out on the internet and find every article that they can that's relating to that topic that has comment sections open to it, and they will use that exact same procedure to create the accounts to then post those messages onto that particular article. And suddenly now anybody who goes to that article and reads it is going to see dozens of people saying this article is bad, this article is crap, don't listen to this, don't read this, blah, blah, blah. And what happens then in people's minds is they see my fellow human beings say that this is a bad article, so I should not read this or I should not believe this. And therefore, they will then walk away from that article with the knowledge that this was a bad article and they won't believe it. It's how it goes. That's how manipulation is done, like what the Pentagon is doing directly, right? They have the troll handbook that tells them exactly how to do all of these different things to change what people's opinions are going to be, because the popular opinion is very important to them. They may not seem like they care about it on the surface, but in reality, they really do. Because again, it's the frog in the boiling water thing. If people have the idea that something is wrong, they're going to jump out of the water. So what they do is they manipulate public opinion so that people remain calm for as long as possible and tolerate more and more and more, to the point where then we're doomed. We're cooked. So social, the public opinion is extremely important to them. They have, they keep very close tabs on exactly what is going on in the mass network of people. They keep very close eyes on it. In fact, everything is about collecting data on us, right? Every single thing is about capturing that data that can then be used. I mean, look, Samsung, their TV, they admit in the terms and services, this thing is listening to you and sending all of the things that you say to their data center. Well, do you think that they're going to be altruistic and erase the data that comes into them? Hell no. They're sending that right off to the NSA. Or they're selling it to multiple third parties so that they can fine-tune their advertising directly to you. You see, because then you're tagged. You're bagged and tagged. I mean, listen, this all happens in every form of media, right? But like getting into television, for instance, do you really think that your media outlets are all individuals sitting at the desk reading something that they wrote? I'm going to discuss that further when we come back from our break. We're going to take a quick one here. And when we come back, I'm going to get into that and so much more. Guys, this topic is really fascinating to me. I have a good time talking about it, although I have a bad time discussing it because I see through a lot of the stuff that's going on, and it aggravates me to no end. I know I'm kind of talking a little calmer tonight than what I usually do, but it really does frustrate the hell out of me because I'm tired of us, us out here in the world being constantly manipulated. I get so sick of it, so tired of it. I don't know. So we'll get into that here in just a few minutes after we get back from our break. Hold on. Open Eyes seeks out the heart of matters, looking for explanations in places that most other radio hosts refuse to go. No subject is forbidden, and nothing remains hidden. Listen to Open Eyes on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Open minds, open hearts, open eyes. You may be suffering from OMS, Open Mind Syndrome. This disorder can be a burden on those suffering from it, as they see the insanity in the world around them. Symptoms of this disorder are likely to be not accepting the status quo, talking frequently about issues that are really important, studying things that are not acceptable by the mainstream thinking, and asking too many questions. this disease can spread rapidly, even over the internet and airwaves. It is becoming an epidemic. If you or someone you know suffers from open mind syndrome, do not seek help. It is apparent that this condition is actually the normal human response to information. In fact, it is best to interact often with fellow sufferers at latenightinthemidlands.com to remain open-minded. Open mind syndrome. It's no joke. Late Night in the Midlands has something for everyone. Whether you're interested in the paranormal, finding out the truth that the mainstream media tries to cover up, or aliens and UFOs, there's always a show for you here. Late Night in the Midlands with Michael Vera is on each weeknight starting at 9 p.m. Open Eyes with Ira Robinson is on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 7 p.m. Lady Red brings you Paranormal Perceptions on Saturdays starting at 7 p.m., followed by Riscala's Red Pill reality show at 9 p.m. Chris Flisher brings you The Turning of the Wheel on Sundays, starting at 7 p.m., and Ryan Gable hosts The Secret Teachings, beginning at 9 p.m. All times are Eastern Standard Time. No matter your interests, there is a show for you here on the LNM Network. Listen live at latenightinthemidlands.com and go to the chat and listen page to participate. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing you the truth, one show at a time.
How is it possible that anybody with any kind of sanity would consider the United States or Britain or the West in general to be in any kind of position to be punishing anyone for any illegalities? We have tortured and killed and maimed and raped around this planet. Who in the hell in their right mind would consider the United States or the West in general to be in any position to punish anybody? Well, we don't operate under international law. What we have is the color of law, the law of the jungle, in which the rich and the powerful basically determine what goes and what doesn't go. First off, all of these players, these politicians, are nothing more than puppets. They don't serve the people. There is no real democracy. They really serve the rich and powerful who run the world, and that would be the bankers who control the money supply. The bankers, of course, make huge amounts of money. It's because more and more people, despite the clueless masses who continue to be entranced by things so ridiculous as X Factor and American Idol, there is larger numbers of people around the world who are realizing the truth and beginning to recapture the capacity to think for themselves. And they can see that these people who are being put in positions of public trust are defying that trust and representing an agenda which they could never speak about openly because they're nothing more than prostitutes and nothing more than minions for the powers that be. These people are psychopaths to the worst order. We know that the United States President is arming people who are on the U.S. terrorist list. He should be convicted of aiding and abetting, giving material support to a terrorist organization. This is nothing more than a group of terrorists working together, each playing one different role, but all of them working together for the same goal, which is to maintain this hideous and sick and twisted, unjust world that we have, which is a perpetual state of war. Always one illusion, one boogeyman after another. The United States is in a perpetual state of war because the bankers control the politicians and they read the script as given to them by the banksters and they make huge amounts of money off of this. Those that are in government are nothing more than prostitutes who are carrying out the orders of those who are in charge of them, and those that are in charge want another war. The duplicity and hypocrisy of the United States and the West can't even be measured. It is so enormous. This is beyond ridiculous, and the only people that buy this are bought-off prostitutes or the dumbest of the dumb. More than anything else, it is the true American patriots, those who are sick and tired of having given up their life and to basically serve the American dream, the American nation, the Constitution that they swore to uphold. It's those military men and women. It's you now. It's coming to you now. Are you a patriot or are you not? Are you going to let your nation descend even further into the chaos and corruption that has been so sick and so twisted that it's destroying American lives as well as the rest of the world, to the tune of 22 American servicemen a day who are committing suicide? Are you going to sacrifice more of your American sons and daughters for Israeli wars, for Zionist wars? Are you going to continue to do that because you are not a patriot? You are in fact aiding and abetting the terrorists you supposedly think you're fighting against. And those Americans who are waking up to this, I hope to God, in the military in particular, that you refuse your orders. And in those in the military, I know that the powers that be are very, very frightened that high-ups within the military will refuse the orders.
They most certainly are very frightened that these people are going to refuse the orders that they're given. How many people, how many of the leaders, the generals within the United States military have been removed from their posts due to trumped up charges or due to, oh, well, we need to move you over here because we don't need you over there anymore? How many of them have been removed from their posts over the past couple of years, knowing that they were ones who would oppose any kind of agenda that would come forward to say, we need to go against the American people. We need to start taking shots against the American people. Hundreds. It's been happening. And this is exactly what that guy right there was talking about. That was Ken O'Keefe who was speaking there. He was a veteran who has seen through all of the different lies that are going on. I thought that was great information to put out. So the propaganda machine is well in hand as far as all of this stuff is concerned. The manipulation is very effective in changing the way that people are thinking about things. I mean, a great example was right there in that music that you heard there. The people who are out there believing these lies are really the dumbest of the dumb. That's what it comes down to. If you believe that 19 hijackers from caves in the Middle East were able to hijack a bunch of planes and fly them into buildings while the NORAD stood down, if you believe that they were somehow effective at shutting NORAD down and not allowing our planes to go up and stop this from happening, you've got to take a look at the evidence. You either have never looked at it or you're the dumbest of the dumb. That's what it comes down to, and I'm not biting any bones about it. If you believe the official story 100%, there's something wrong. Yeah. Anyways, so that's a great example of how manipulation is done. It's a great example of it because so many people out there do believe the official story. They do believe that 19 hijackers shut NORAD down. They do believe that Bush was completely innocent of anything that went on, and so on and so forth. They totally believe all of it. They believe that Donald Rumsfeld came out the day before 9/11 and announced that $2.3 trillion was missing from the Pentagon, and that, that was an honest thing for him to say, and that it had nothing to do with the next day 9/11 ending up occurring, so that then no one else has ever talked about this again. They believe that. They believe the World Trade Center 7 came down with no fire, no nothing at all going on with it other than a little bit of stuff, and that it came down again into its own footprint. They believe it. If you want to believe it, hey, that's fine. More power to you. Whatever. Go ahead and watch more American Idol. That's fine. So, again, I asked a question before the break. Do you think that the people that are sitting there in front of the cameras in the news media outlets, do you think that they are actually journalists who are there telling the story of whatever it is that they're speaking about, that they went out and they researched all of this stuff and so on and so forth? Do you believe that they are actually journalists? If you do, you're wrong. They're actors. They are paid actors on a stage reading from a script, just like you're watching a Hollywood movie. And they are very, very good at manipulating the human brain. Now, I'm going to give you a great example of how the journalists, these actors, work. Not long ago, Conan O'Brien made an announcement on his show that he was going to perform a gay marriage ceremony on his show, and that this ended up causing a stir in the media, quote unquote. And basically he put together a series of clips from different news outlets out there that were talking about this happening. And all of these are from different organizations. There's some that are right-leaning. There's some that are left-leaning. There's some that are flat out 100% right hand and 100% left hand and so on and so forth. So he strung these together in a way that you can see that everything really is done from a script. I want to play that for you here. It's just a minute long.
Talk show host Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be able to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on his late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope once again on late-night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien is looking to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late-night television.
Conan O'Brien may be preparing to push the late-night envelope.
And of course, everybody is clapping and laughing and, oh, this is so funny. And yes, there is a humorous aspect to it. I laughed when I heard it. But it's humorous because it's ridiculous. It's humorous because it is so blatant and obvious that this manipulation is going on, that this scripting is going on. Look, these journalists, they're not there to investigate the stories anymore. They get their scripts from a source. It's all scripted. It's all lies. It's all Hollywood smoke and mirrors, and you're getting played. I'm getting played, and we are getting played with all of this stuff, and it really does tick me off because so many people out there are falling for this scripted world that they have created. So another way that they do things is through social biases. I sort of went into that a little bit before the break about how they'll use sock puppets and that sort of thing to, manipulate the people's minds into thinking that one way or another is the proper way to think. And most people think that people's attitudes need to be changed in order to get from one place or another, or to get people to change their behavior. But what social scientists have found out is that when you change the behavior of someone, then their attitude changes. So a lot of times what they'll do is they will put forward things to try to get people to change their behaviors of something, and that starts to change their attitudes about things. This is one way that the manipulation is done, especially in regards to commercialism and commercial products. So they will, for instance, they will pump music into the grocery store that makes people more apt to be calm, and therefore changing the behavior. They'll put the Muzak on the elevator so that instead of fighting with people or arguing with somebody that's in very close proximity to you, because it's a very enclosed space and that may end up occurring, get out of my face. So instead of doing that kind of thing, you're going to sit there and just listen to the girl from Ipanema. And that's how the behaviors are changed, which then change people's attitudes. It changes people's overall mind. It's a subtle thing, but it works. They do this so that people's behaviors change over time. Again, the frog in the water thing. It's done with an extended mindset involved. It's there in the politically correct mindset when it comes to things like radical Islam and that sort of thing. They change the social norms. It's the biggest tool that the agenda pushers have. Their biggest weapon, I guess you could say. So, I'll give you an example actually of a way that social norm and social normacy works. Buskers, street musicians, they will seed money into their containers so that people walk by, they see the money that's in there, and they think, oh, well, someone else gave to him, so I'm going to give to this guy too. He's obviously good. My fellow human beings have said that he is good. The really good ones actually will have friends that will, once in a while, when crowds are around, they'll walk up and put money into the hat or tin or whatever it is that's there, so that other people can see that it is happening and be prompted to join in. It's a perfect example of the bandwagon type of propaganda or manipulation. But here's the kicker. You might think that most of the people that are doing these things are trying to make positive changes, and some may be, yeah, but most certainly not all. Because the truth about human beings is that whatever you see other people doing, you're likely going to do it too. And if they push the negative agendas out, then their human beings are going to act more negatively because that's what's being reinforced. And so you see that with the fear agendas, especially because that's a negative thing. So when you see other people being afraid, you're going to be afraid. It's a way of diluting out the pool, essentially. Everything that you see in the media is finely tuned to make you believe whatever it is that they want you to believe. They will do things, for example, if they are trying to sell the idea of RFID chips being a good thing and necessary, they'll put a sexy woman with bright colors or a white background on the screen so that it it creates a mindset of something bright and positive to go on. They'll make it all like witty and charming. They'll be kind of humorous about things and that sort of thing. And if they're talking about a serious issue, a really serious thing that they want people to understand or pay attention to, or maybe that they want you to feel negative about, then they'll put a man on with like a deep voice or a seriously toned voice with dark backgrounds behind them on the screen. So like for illegal drugs, the idea of not wanting people to use illegal drugs or whatever, they'll have that kind of thing to it, that, oh, well, this is a serious man's voice who's talking, and this is your brain on drugs, and this is your brain, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they'll do that too with, when talking about ISIS and terrorism and all of that kind of stuff. There's always going to be this seriously toned kind of person that's there, that's talking very sternly, and so on and so forth. It sets the mood, which instantly puts the mind of the person who is watching it into this state of being that can then be easily manipulated. It's really not that difficult. I have an example here of a positive message style of manipulation for you. It's short, but it's got a lot that's involved with it, and I'll talk about it when you're done listening to it here. It's just a couple of minutes long here, so.
Hey, I'm Kinga Phillips, and this is Google Current. Searches are up for Baja Beach Club this week, a nightclub in Barcelona. Now, the place looks like a good time, but people all over the world don't start searching for a nightclub unless it's doing something freaky. And it is. The club began injecting ID chips into its VIP guests 2 years ago. The right-size chips allow VIPs to skip the whole velvet rope routine, get into the swanky VIP areas, and charge drinks automatically. Sort of like starting a tab in your arm. This week, a U.S. company called CityWatcher.com adopted the same technology and implanted chips into a few employees, eliminating the need for company IDs or access cards. But some folks are worried that CityWatcher has bigger plans for the chips. That's because the company makes its money setting up camera systems for cities trying to keep an eye on crime-ridden areas. An obvious next step for a surveillance company would be virtual tracking, which has some people freaked out. People like Catherine Albrecht, founder and director of Caspian, Consumers Against Supermarket Privacy Invasion and Numbering. That's the group that took on Walmart a little while back when they first switched to radio frequency chips to track packages. Albrecht published the book Spy Chips, started a website of the same name, and even put out this eye-catching t-shirt. Needless to say, she's not too stoked on the possibility of our government or other private agencies spying on us through our consumer products or chips embedded in our skin. Oh, and FYI, the website says that if you're trying to disable an RFID chip, a microwave will work, but it's not recommended because it can start a fire. And also, don't try to drown the chip. Water doesn't work, and neither do magnets. Of course, the companies manufacturing the chips, like the VeriChip Corporation, maintain that their goal is to improve our lives. VeriChip's website focuses on health concerns and safety that shows how their products prevent Alzheimer's patients from wandering off or babies being delivered to the wrong mothers. But I guess in the end, what really counts, though, is if the thing can get me in with the VIP crowd at the hot Spanish disco. Then I'm all for it. Just put those drinks on my arm.
Now, I could go on for a really long time about all of the manipulation that's going on with this little clip. But let me start by saying that if you were to watch this video of it, you'd see a girl who is good looking, and there are all kinds of sporty and smart looking graphics going on in the background. She's all witty about the whole subject, and they found something that was going on to allow them to inject a humorous bent to it. In the middle of things, she talks about the anti-RFID people and makes them seem like they are freaks. Notice the wording there. They are freaking out. That programs the listener into hearing freaking out in relation to the subject. You see how it works? I mean, it's subtle, but it's there. It's how our minds work. Well, you could look at reading, for example. When you read a book or something like that, you're not actually reading each and every word that's there. You skip a lot. You get the general gist of things as you read, and then your brain kind of fills in the blanks as you go. You might skip entire sentences, in fact, and still know exactly what is being talked about in the paragraph that you're reading. Listening to things has the exact same type of thing going on. You don't hear every word, at least that you're aware of on a conscious level. You don't hear every word that's being spoken. Your brain skips a lot. It takes all of the sounds that are coming into your ear canals and it separates it out into piles of this is useful and piles of this is not useful. In fact, it's estimated that for everything that you hear, you're going to only retain about 20% of what you hear. The rest of it is discarded as being useless. And most of that is, well, ambient sounds. So like the sound of the wind blowing or the sound of someone next to you breathing or the sound of the tree branches moving outside or the leaves whistling in the wind, that sort of thing gets kind of filtered out. You might notice it when you first start hearing it, but after a moment or two, your brain will start to filter that out as being unnecessary information. There's no predator there, so therefore I can ignore that sound. And the same thing occurs with when someone is speaking to you. It's the same type of event. You're not going to hear every single word that's being said. So you're not hearing every single word that I'm saying right now. And you're not retaining every single word that I'm saying. But your brain will retain enough of the useful information and compartmentalize it to allow you to make use of it at a later time period. Does that make sense? So going back to that clip, they make it appealing by talking about this cool club that is in the story. I mean, they even mention it twice. And they did that because that's what they're reinforcing here. Oh, it's cool. It's so easy to just swipe your arm. Be like the cool people. Oh, this is beneficial. It makes sure your babies aren't being given to the wrong mother. You see, they're playing on that inherent fear in people, and they're using the for the children power button that I talk about sometimes. You know, the fact that when someone says, well, this is for the children, or we have to keep the children safe, or anything that's involving danger and our children, we are inherently programmed to respond in a very defensive way because, well, we're trying to propagate the species, right? So our children have to remain safe. That's just how it is. Well, notice as well that they mentioned the club thing last. That's another manipulation tactic. Whatever you last hear in a commercial or a news story or anything along those lines is the thing that you're going to retain the most. It's what you're going to have echoing in your brain for the longest period of time. So another example with the fear tactics that are being used is you'll hear them say things like, oh, well, ISIS beheaded 20 people today and this is a horrible experience. So we're going to go to commercial now. You see, it's like that's the last thing that they'll say, and then that's retained. It's all scripted. It's all very carefully scripted and fine-tuned with these different things that I've discussed here in mind. They know that when they do these certain things, the majority of people are going to respond in whatever way they want them to respond in. It's a herd instinct. It's a herd mentality that goes on. They know that a large percentage of people are going to respond this way, and that's all that matters. Those of us who are aware of these type of things happening, and we're not as easily manipulated or programmed, and we're actually speaking out against this system of things, we're not enough of a challenge yet for them to really start fighting against. Not in an overt way anyways. They do it in a subtle way with the COINTEL tactics, with the sock puppetry and the troll type of things that go on. Those are the subtle techniques that are happening. The more they can continue that, the longer of a period of time they can continue doing that, the better for them. Because again, frog out of water type situation. If people saw that there was this overt challenge against the people who are trying to stand up against the system, then suddenly people start paying a lot of attention to it. They start paying a lot of attention to, okay, well, what is it that these people were talking about that's gotten the government so pissed off? What is it that the people are trying to say? Even if it's ridiculous, they'll still look at it. And that is enough of a thing to be avoided by the power players, that they just don't bother allowing that to happen yet. So for now, they just do the subtle things until they're ready to trigger whatever it is that they want to trigger. At that point, then the more overt things will go on. And don't forget as well, when it comes to the news media outlets, that the old adage is very true. If it bleeds, it leads, and sex sells. I mean, they salivate over the horrific experiences that are occurring, or the horrific events that are occurring, because they know that that's when the iron is hot and the time to strike has come. So they do, when these different fear things come along, that's when they really push it. They don't push it because people just need to be informed about bad things. I mean, they inform people about bad things all the time. Bad things happen on a daily basis. We live in a world with 7 billion people in it. Bad things happen 24 hours a day, right? But when these major big bads happen, and most of the time they are actually done in a manipulative way, false flag kind of way, when those occur, that's when the iron is the hottest and they need to strike the most. So they'll put out the major propaganda at that point. They'll for 48 or 72 hours, they'll have this major news cycle where everything is all about that. And it's just fear, fear, fear going on. So when it comes to the media that's out there, you bear this in mind as well. There are right now over 1,500 newspapers, over 1,100 different magazines, 9,000 radio stations, 1,500 TV stations, and 2,400 different publishers that are owned by only 6 corporations. You have GE, you have News Corp, you have Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. If they want our opinion, they're going to give it to us. And actually, this sort of leaves off an even more disturbing fact, which is that those companies are actually only getting their directives from one of two major news outlets. You have Reuters and the Associated Press. And in fact, Reuters has its hand in the Associated Press as well. So really, you've actually only got one news source that is out there, and they just repackage whatever it is that the agenda makers are wanting to pass down. It's pretty insane when you start to think about it, right? And the media, these news outlets, these journalists, they are most definitely paid shills. I have a clip that I want to play for you from a guy named Udo Ufkot, who is from Germany. He was a journalist in Germany, and he's sort of speaking out about some of the things that he encountered while being a journalist for 25 years in Germany. And he's here in America now, living here in America now. But he's coming forward with some of the manipulation tactics that are done with the media. And I wanted to be sure to play this. So listen up. Here you go.
I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how far how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed. War is never coming from itself. There is always people behind it to push for war. And this is not only politicians, this is journalists too. And I became an honorary citizen of the state of Oklahoma in the United States. Why? Just because I write pro-American. I wrote pro-American. I was supported by the Central Intelligence Agency, by the CIA. Why? Because I should be pro-American. Now, you ask, what have I done for intelligence agencies? So, please see, most of the journalists you see in foreign countries, they claim to be journalists, and they might be journalists, European or American journalists, but many of them, like me in the past, are so-called non-official cover. That's what the Americans call that. I have been a non-official cover. So I have helped them in several situations, and I feel ashamed for that too now. Like I feel ashamed that I have worked for a very recommended newspaper like the Frankfurter Allgemeine, because I was bribed by billionaires, I was bribed by the Americans not to report exactly the truth. Young journalists through what is very important here is transatlantic organizations. All journalists from really respected and recommended big newspapers, magazines, radio stations, TV stations, they are all members or guests of those big transatlantic organizations. And there, in these transatlantic organizations, you are approached to be pro-American, and there is nobody coming to you and saying, well, we are the Central Intelligence Agency, would you like to work for us? No, this is not the case how it happens. What they do, these transatlantic organizations, is they invite you for seeing the United States. They pay for that, they pay all your expenses and everything. So you're bribed. You get more and more corrupt because they make you good contacts. You won't know that those good contacts are, let's say, non-official covers, or officially people working for Central Intelligence Agency or other American agencies. So you make friends. You think they are friends, and you cooperate with them. They ask you, well, could you do me this favor? Could you do me that favor? And so your brain more and more is brainwashed through these guys. There's many countries where this happens, where you find people to claim they are respected journalists, but if you look behind them, you'll find they are puppets on a string of the Central Intelligence Agency. Sometimes the intelligence agencies, they come to your office and want you to write an article. I give you an example, not from strange other journalists, from me myself. I've just forgotten the year. I just remember that the German Foreign Intelligence, Bundesnachrichtendienst, it is just a sister organization of the Central Intelligence Agency. It was founded by the American Intelligence Agency. So one day, the BND, this German Foreign Intelligence Agency, came to my office at the Frankfurter Allgemeine in Frankfurt. And they wanted me to write an article about Libya and about Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I had absolutely no secret informations regarding Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and Libya. But they gave me all these secret informations, and they just wanted me to write, to sign the article with my name. I did that, but it was an article that was published in the Frankfurter Allgemeine that originally came from the Bundesnachrichtendienst, from the German Foreign Intelligence Agency. So do you really think that this is journalism, intelligence agencies writing articles?
It's really that easy, people. When they want your opinion, they're going to give it to you. It's that simple. They do it simply and easily, and you never realize that it's happening. And when you do, they'll tell you that the fluoride is fine for consumption so that you can get even more of it into your body and allow your brain to function a little less than it did before. Or how about more of that lithium in the water? I mean, that's coming next. Then you'll really see people being zombied out. They've spent many years and many billions of dollars studying exactly how people will respond to certain triggers. They have learned the fine points of manipulating everything that a person is. They start it from birth. You have to ask yourself, are the thoughts that I have really my own? Or am I just parroting what someone else wanted me to think? I mean, heck, guys, what you retain is retained forever. It's in there somewhere, bouncing around in your brain, and you go through every moment of your life looking through a set of lenses that is tainted by all of those things that you have picked up over the years. It's a sad situation. Repetition, saying the same things over and over is one of the biggest ways that they get you. Fear this and that, and watch out for the terrorists, and ISIS is beheading, and measles, watch out for the evil anti-vaxxers. They want your children to die. I mean, you're going to feel the way that they want you to feel unless you are vigilant. And I mean very, very vigilant against the crap that they are spewing at all moments of the time. And unfortunately, speaking of time, I am out of it. So I'm going to have to let this one go for this night, and I am definitely going to touch on it again because it is a subject that is very important for people to know and understand. The more you know how you're being manipulated, the easier it is for you to fight against. And it's important to do. So, guys, if you want to send me an email, you can send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. If you want to go to the show notes for this show, which will have the links to everything that I've talked about here, including the news stories, that will be at openeyesnetwork.com/OE072. If If you want to find me on Facebook and Twitter, you can find me at Open Eyes Network as well as Ira Robinson, and I welcome any and all communications that you guys have, as long as you're not trolling me. And on Wednesday, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LateNightInTheMidlands.com, I am going to talk to you guys about the Bigfoot Enigma, among other things. It's going to be a really interesting show. I hope that you guys learned a lot today. I hope that you guys picked up some information that you maybe didn't know before, and make use of it. Be sure to stick around. Michael Vera is going to bring you Late Night in the Midlands in just a few minutes. And until next time, guys, keep safe out there and have fun. And thank you so much for listening. Remember, Wednesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, LateNightInTheMidlands.com.